The kitchen was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator, a sound that had become my only companion in those long, empty hours. I sat at the worn oak table, my hands trembling slightly as they rested on the chipped edge. At 72, I had seen my share of hardships, war, loss, the slow erosion of time, but nothing had prepared me for this. 3 days. 3 days without food, without a single word from my daughter, Clara, the daughter I had raised, loved, and sacrificed for, the daughter who had left me here, in this crumbling house, to fend for myself. I wasn't always this fragile. Once, I was Eleanor Hayes, the woman who ran a small bakery downtown, kneading dough with strong hands and greeting customers with a smile that could brighten even the gloomiest mornings. I built a life for Clara and me after her father passed when she was just a girl. It wasn't easy, but I made sure she had everything: school supplies, new dresses for prom, a college fund I scraped together from every extra penny. I thought I was building a bond that would last forever. I thought she'd be there for me when my knees grew weak and my memory started to blur at the edges. Clara had always been headstrong, even as a child. Her brown eyes, so much like her father's, held a fire that could light up a room or burn it down. By the time she was 30, she had a life of her own: a husband, a career in marketing, a sleek apartment in the city. I was proud of her, even if her visits grew less frequent over the years. "I'm busy, Mom," she'd say, her voice sharp with impatience. "Work's crazy. I'll come by soon." Soon stretched into weeks, then months. But I held on to hope, clinging to the idea that family always comes back. That hope shattered 3 days ago. Clara had stopped by last week, her usual whirlwind self, dropping off a bag of groceries with a hurried kiss on my cheek. "I'll be back in a couple of days, Mom. Promise." Her promises were as fleeting as the autumn leaves outside my window. The groceries ran out quickly. My appetite was small, but my body still demanded something. I called her, left voicemails that went unanswered. I texted, my fingers fumbling over the phone she'd bought me. Nothing. By the second day, hunger gnawed at my stomach, a dull ache that matched the one in my chest. By the third, I felt like a ghost in my own home, drifting from room to room, staring at the empty pantry. I wasn't angry at first. I was worried. What if something had happened to her? But then I saw her post on that app. She was always glued tosmeling at a restaurant, clinking wine glasses with her husband, laughing as if the world was hers. She was fine. She just didn't care. The realization hit me like a winter wind, sharp and unrelenting. My daughter, my only child, had left me to starve. I pushed myself up from the table, my joints protesting, and shuffled to the living room. The house was a museum of memories: Clara's school photos on the mantel, the quilt I'd made for her when she was born, now fraying at the edges. I sank into the armchair, my eyes falling on the folder tucked under a stack of old magazines. My trust fund papers, the money I'd saved over decades, carefully invested, meant to secure Clara's future after I was gone. It was substantial, enough to change her life. I'd always planned to leave it all to her. But now, as I sat in the quiet, my stomach empty and my heart emptier, I wondered if she deserved it. The thought felt like a betrayal of everything I'd ever believed about motherhood. But wasn't her abandonment a betrayal too? I closed my eyes, the weight of the past 3 days pressing down on me. I remembered the nights I stayed up sewing her Halloween costumes, the mornings I drove her to school when the bus broke down, the years I poured my soul into giving her a better life. And now, this. I wasn't just hungry for food, it was starving for the love I thought we shared. I opened my eyes and reached for the folder. My hands, spotted with age, moved with a new resolve. If Clara could leave me to wither, I could rewrite the ending of our story. I wasn't helpless. Not yet. The lawyer's office was a stark contrast to my home-polished wood. Leather chairs. The faint smell of coffee lingering in the air. I sat across from Mr. Thompson, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a meticulous way of adjusting his glasses. The folder from my living room now lay open on his desk, its pages worn but orderly, a testament to the years I'd spent planning for Clara's future. My hands rested in my lap. Steady now, though my heart still raced with the decision I was about to make. Mrs. Hayes. Mr. Thompson said, his voice gentle but professional. You're certain about this? Changing the beneficiary of a trust fund is a significant step. He paused, studying my face. I knew what he saw: a frail woman with silver hair, her eyes carrying the weight of too many unspoken words. But I wasn't here to be pitied. I was here to take back something I'd lost: control. I'm certain, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Clara's made her choices. I'm making mine. He nodded, jotting down notes. And you'd like the new beneficiary to be the community center? Correct. Specifically, their senior outreach program. Yes. The words came easily now. The community center had been my lifeline in recent years, a place where I could share stories with other seniors, play cards, and feel like I belonged somewhere. They'd started a program to deliver meals to homebound elderly folks, people like me who couldn't always get to the store. If I'd had that program 3 days ago, I wouldn't have been staring at an empty pantry. The thought of my trust fund, all those years of savings, going to help others in my position felt right. It felt like justice. Mr. Thompson explained the legalities forms to sign, clauses to amend, but my mind wandered back to Clara. I saw her as a little girl, her pigtails bouncing as she ran through the park, her laughter filling the air. I saw her as a teenager, slamming her bedroom door when I asked her to do her chores. I saw her as a woman, standing in my kitchen last week, promising to return. The memories were a tangled knot of love and pain, and I wondered where I'd gone wrong. Had I loved her too much? Or not enough? Mrs. Hayes. Mr. Thompson's voice pulled me back. We'll need a witness for the signatures. I can arrange for one of my staff. Or, I'll do it alone. I interrupted. I don't need anyone else. The words carried more weight than I intended. Alone. That's what I'd been for 3 days. And that's what I'd be moving forward. But alone didn't mean weak. I signed the papers with a steady hand, each stroke of the pen severing a thread that tied me to Clara's future. When I left the office, the autumn air was crisp, the leaves crunching under my slow steps. I felt lighter, as if I'd shed a burden I'd carried too long. But the lightness was tinged with sorrow. I didn't want to hate Clara. I didn't want to cut her out of my life like this. But she'd left me no choice. I stopped at a small cafe, using the last of my cash to buy a bowl of soup. It was simple: carrots, potatoes, a hint of thyme, but it warmed me from the inside out. For the first time in days, I wasn't hungry. That evening, I sat in my armchair, the folder now empty of its original purpose. I thought about calling Clara, telling her what I'd done, but I didn't. Not yet. Let her come to me, I thought. Let her see what her absence had cost. Instead, I dialed the community center and spoke to Margaret, the program director. Her voice was warm, full of gratitude when I told her about the trust fund. Eleanor, this will change lives, she said. You're a blessing. Her words stayed with me as I hung up. A blessing. I hadn't felt like one in a long time. But maybe, just maybe, I could be one again, not for Clara, but for strangers who needed me more than she did. The days that followed were quieter than I expected. The house felt different now, as if the air itself had shifted. I busied myself with small tasks, watering the plants, dusting the shelves, sorting through old letters. Each action was a way to reclaim my space, to remind myself that I was still here, still living. But the silence was heavy, broken only by the occasional ring of the phone. I didn't answer it. I knew it was Clara, finally checking in, her voicemails piling up like unpaid bills. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. On the 5th day, she showed up. I heard her car pull into the driveway, the engine cutting off with a sharp click. My heart tightened as I watched her through the window, her hurried steps up the porch betraying her unease. She knocked, then called out, "Mom, you there?" Her voice was the same as always, bright, impatient, expecting me to open the door and welcome her in. I took my time. When I finally opened the door, Clara stood there, her coat slung over one arm, a plastic bag of groceries in the other. Her brown eyes widened when she saw me, and I wondered what she saw me thinner frame, the shadows under my eyes, the hardness in my expression. "Mom, oh my God, are you okay?" she said, stepping inside without asking. "I've been calling you." I closed the door behind her, my movement slow. "I've been here," I said simply. "Where have you been?" She set the groceries on the counter, avoiding my gaze. "Work's been insane, and Tom's been traveling. And look, I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. I brought some stuff for you." She gestured to the bag, as if it could erase the past week. I looked at it: canned soup, bread, a carton of milk. Enough to last a few days. Maybe. But it wasn't enough to mend what was broken. "Clara," I said, my voice low, "you left me here for 3 days with nothing to eat." 3 days. Her face flushed, and she opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. "I didn't mean to," she said finally. "I got caught up. I thought you'd be okay." "You thought I'd be okay," I repeated, the words bitter on my tongue. "I'm 72. Clara. I can't drive anymore. I can't just walk to the store. You promised you'd come back." She ran a hand through her hair, a gesture I knew so well. I know. I messed up. But I'm here now. Okay. Let's make some lunch. And we can talk." I shook my head. "No. We're past that." I walked to the living room, motioning for her to follow. She did, her steps hesitant. I picked up the folder from the coffee table and handed it to her. "Read it." She frowned, flipping through the pages. Her eyes scanned the text, then widened as she realized what it was. "Mom, you changed your trust fund to the community center." Her voice rose, a mix of shock and disbelief. "You're cutting me out." "You cut yourself out," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "You left me here. Clara. You chose your life over mine. I'm choosing now, too." She stared at me, her mouth open, searching for words. This is crazy. I'm your daughter. You can't just after everything. You'd do this to me." "After everything," I echoed. "You did this to me." The room fell silent, the weight of our words hanging between us. Clara's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't soften. Not this time. I'd spent too many years softening, forgiving, waiting. I was done waiting. She left without another word, the groceries still on the counter. As her car pulled away, I felt a strange mix of relief and grief. I'd lost something today, but I'd gained something too, a sense of self I thought I'd forgotten. The community center buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the stillness of my home. I started volunteering there a few days after Clara's visit, needing something to fill the void she'd left. The senior outreach program was in full swing, with volunteers packing meal boxes and organizing delivery routes. I found purpose in the small tasks: folding napkins, labeling containers, chatting with the other seniors who came for coffee and company. Their stories, like mine, were woven with loss and resilience, and I felt a kinship I hadn't known I needed. Margaret, the program director, was a force of nature, 50 years old, with a laugh that could fill a room and a knack for making everyone feel seen. She pulled me aside one afternoon, her eyes bright with excitement. "Eleanor, your donation is going to make such a difference. We're expanding the meal program, hiring more drivers. We're even starting a companionship initiative, pairing volunteers with folks who live alone." I smiled, warmth spreading through me. "I'm glad I could help," I said. "It's what I wanted." She squeezed my hand. "You're doing more than helping. You're giving people hope." Hope. The word lingered as I returned to my tasks. I hadn't felt hope in a long time. But here, surrounded by people who cared, it flickered like a candle in the dark. I thought of Clara, wondered if she'd ever understand what I'd done. I didn't want to punish her, not really. I wanted her to see what she'd taken for granted. But as the days passed, she didn't call, didn't visit. The silence was her answer, and it cut deeper than I wanted to admit. One evening, as I walked home from the center, I passed the old bakery where I'd worked. The sign was gone, replaced by a new cafe, but I could still see myself behind the counter, Clara at my side, sneaking bits of dough when she thought I wasn't looking. The memory was so vivid it hurt. I stopped, leaning against a lamppost, my breath catching in my throat. I didn't want to lose her completely, but I couldn't go back to the way things were, either. When I got home, I found a letter slipped under my door. Clara's handwriting, neat and precise, stared up at me. My heart skipped as I opened it, bracing for her anger. Instead, her words were soft, almost pleading. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad things were. I want to make this right. Can we talk?" I read the letter twice, then set it on the table. Part of me wanted to call her, to invite her over, to rebuild what we'd lost. But another part, the part that had sat hungry for 3 days, held back. Trust, once broken, wasn't easily mended. I needed time. I needed her to show me she meant it. The next day, I went back to the community center, throwing myself into the work. I helped a woman named Ruth, who was 80 and blind in one eye, sort through her meal deliveries. She told me about her son, who lived across the country and rarely called. "Kids," she said with a wry smile, "they don't know what they've got till it's gone." Her words stayed with me as I walked home that night. Clara wasn't gone, not yet. But she was slipping away, and I wasn't sure I had the strength to pull her back. I looked at the letter again, still unanswered on my table. Maybe tomorrow, I thought. Maybe tomorrow I'd call her. But for now, I was enough. I had my purpose, my community, my strength. And that, I realized, was more than I'd had in a long time. The weeks turned into a month, and Clara's letter remained unanswered. I kept it on the table, a silent reminder of the choice I hadn't yet made. Each day, I told myself I'd call her, but something always stopped me: pride, pain, or maybe just fear that she'd let me down again. Instead, I poured my energy into the community center, where I'd become a familiar face. The volunteers called me Miss Eleanor, and their warmth filled the spaces Clara had left empty. One morning, as I helped pack meal boxes, Margaret approached me with a newspaper. "You're famous," she said, grinning as she handed it to me. The headline read, "Local Woman's Donation Transforms Senior Outreach Program." My name was there, alongside a photo of me smiling at the center, my hands folded over a stack of meal containers. I felt a flush of pride, but also a pang of unease. Clara would see this. She'd know, if she didn't already, that I'd followed through with my decision. That afternoon, she called again. I stared at the phone, my finger hovering over the answer button. Finally, I picked up. "Hello, Clara," I said, my voice neutral. "Mom," she said, her voice breaking. "I saw the article. You really did it. The trust fund, it's gone." "It's not gone," I said. "It's helping people. People who need it." There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her words were choked with tears. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear. I was selfish, caught up in my own life. I know I failed you." Her admission hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to believe her, to trust that she was sorry. But words weren't enough. "Clara," I said, "you left me without food for 3 days. Do you know what that felt like? To sit in this house, wondering if my own daughter cared whether I lived or died." "I know," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. Mom, I want to fix this. Please, let me." I closed my eyes, the weight of her words settling over me. "I need more than apologies," I said. "I need to see you mean it." "I will," she said quickly. "I'll come by tomorrow. I'll bring groceries, help around the house. Whatever you need. Just give me a chance." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just told her I'd see her tomorrow and hung up. The conversation left me restless, torn between hope and caution. I spent the evening sorting through old photos, pulling out ones of Clara as a child, her first bike, her graduation, the day she got married. Each image was a piece of a life we'd shared, now fractured but not entirely lost. The next day, Clara arrived as promised, her arms full of groceries, fresh vegetables, bread, even a pie from the bakery I used to love. She looked nervous, her eyes searching mine for forgiveness. We worked in silence for a while, unpacking the bags, filling the pantry. Then she spoke, her voice soft. "I don't expect you to trust me right away, but I'm going to keep showing up. Mom. I promise." I nodded, not ready to let my guard down, but willing to let her try. We ate dinner together that night, simple pasta. Nothing fancy, but it was the first meal we'd shared in months. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As she left, she hugged me, her arms lingering longer than usual. I didn't hug her back. Not yet. But I felt the warmth of her embrace stay with me long after she was gone. Clara kept her word. She came by twice a week, bringing groceries, helping with chores, sitting with me over coffee. At first, our conversations were stilted, careful, like walking on thin ice. But over time, they softened. She told me about her job, her marriage, the pressures she faced. I listened, not offering forgiveness, but not withholding it either. I was testing her, and she knew it. Each visit was a step, small but deliberate, toward rebuilding what we'd lost. One afternoon, as we sat in the living room, she noticed the quilt on the couch, the one I'd made for her when she was born. "You kept this?" she asked, running her fingers over the faded patches. "Of course," I said. "It's yours." Her eyes welled up, and she looked away. "I don't deserve it," she said quietly. "I don't deserve you." I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it was okay, but another part held back. "You're here now?" I said finally. That's what matters. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I'm trying, Mom. I really am. I believed her. But belief wasn't trust. Trust would take time. Still, I felt something shift inside me, a loosening of the knot that had tightened when I'd sat alone in my kitchen, hungry and forgotten. Clara wasn't the same reckless girl who'd left me to fend for myself. She was trying to be better, and I was trying to let her. At the community center, my work continued to anchor me. The senior outreach program had grown, thanks to the trust fund. We were delivering meals to dozens of homes now, and I'd started leading a weekly storytelling group where seniors shared their lives with each other. Their stories of love, loss, survival reminded me that I wasn't alone in my struggles. One woman, Dorothy, told me about her estranged son, who hadn't spoken to her in years. I keep hoping he'll come back, she said, her voice trembling. But I'm learning to live without him. Her words echoed my own fears. I didn't want to live without Clara, but I was learning to live for myself. The trust fund decision, once a reaction to pain, now felt like a gift not just to the community, but to me. It had given me purpose, a reason to get up each morning. One evening, Clara stayed late, helping me organize old books in the attic. We found a box of her childhood drawings, crude sketches of houses and families, all signed with her loopy handwriting. She laughed, holding one up. I was terrible at this, she said. You were 6, I said, smiling. You were perfect. She looked at me, her expression serious. I want to be better, Mom. Not just for you, but for me. I've been so caught up in my own world. I forgot what really matters. I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. It was the first time I'd touched her since she'd started coming back. Then keep showing me, I said. That's all I ask. She nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the girl I'd raised, the one with fire in her eyes, but also love in her heart. We weren't healed. Not yet. But we were moving towards something new. Something worth fighting for. Winter came, bringing a chill that seeped into my bones. Clara's visits became a steady rhythm, a lifeline I hadn't realized I'd needed. She didn't just bring groceries, now she brought stories. Laughter. Pieces of herself I thought I'd lost. One snowy afternoon, she showed up with a small Christmas tree, its branches barely fitting through the door. We're decorating, she announced, her cheeks flushed from the cold. No arguments. I watched her string lights around the tree, her hands steady but her eyes nervous, as if she feared I'd reject her effort. I didn't. We worked together, hanging ornaments from my old collection, each one a memory, some hers, some mine, some ours. When we finished, the tree glowed softly, casting warmth across the living room. It's beautiful, I said, and I meant it. Clara smiled, a real smile, not the forced one she'd worn in the early days of her return. I'm glad, she said. I want this to be a good Christmas, Mom. It was. We cooked together, a simple meal of roasted chicken and potatoes, and sat by the tree, talking late into the night. She told me about her regrets, her fears, the way her life had spiraled into chaos without her noticing. I took you for granted, she admitted. I thought you'd always be here, always fine. I was wrong. Her honesty disarmed me. I wanted to stay guarded, to protect myself from more hurt. But her words chipped away at my defenses. I wasn't fine, I said quietly. But I'm stronger than you think. I know, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I see that now. At the community center, the holiday season brought new energy. We organized a Christmas party for the seniors, complete with carols and homemade cookies. I watched as Ruth, Dorothy, and the others laughed and shared stories, their faces lit with joy. Margaret pulled me aside, her eyes shining. "This is because of you, Eleanor. You've given these people a family." Her words stayed with me as I walked home, the snow crunching under my boots. A family. Not the one I'd planned for, but one I'd found. And Clara, she was trying to be part of it again. I wasn't sure I could ever fully forgive her, but I was starting to see a path forward. One where we could coexist without the weight of the past crushing us. That night, I sat by the tree, the lights casting soft shadows on the walls. I thought about the trust fund, the choice I'd made in anger and pain. I didn't regret it, not exactly, but I wondered if I'd been too harsh. Clara was trying, and maybe that deserved something. Not the money that was gone. Doing good where it was needed, but a chance to rebuild. A chance to be mother and daughter again. I picked up the phone and dialed her number. "Clara," I said when she answered, "come over tomorrow. I want to talk." She arrived the next morning, her eyes hopeful but cautious. I told her about the community center, the people I'd met, the lives we were changing. I told her I was proud of what I'd done, but I was also proud of her for trying. "I don't know if we'll ever be what we were," I said, "but I want to try." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Me too, Mom. Me too." Spring arrived, soft and tentative, like the new understanding between Clara and me. Her visits were a constant now, woven into the fabric of my weeks. She didn't just come to help, she came to listen, to share, to be present. We talked about the past, not shying away from the pain, but facing it together. She told me about the pressures of her job, the strain in her marriage, the guilt that had consumed her since she'd read my trust fund papers. I told her about the loneliness of those 3 days, the strength I'd found in myself, the community that had become my family. One afternoon, we sat in the backyard, the air warm with the scent of blooming lilacs. Clara held a photo album, flipping through pages of her childhood. "I remember this," she said, pointing to a picture of us at the beach, her tiny hand in mine. "You always made everything feel safe." "I tried," I said, my voice soft. "I wanted you to have everything." She looked at me, her eyes steady. "I had you. That was enough. I just forgot." Her words healed something in me, a wound I'd carried too long. I reached for her hand, and this time, I held it tightly. "We're here now," I said. "Let's not forget again." At the community center, the senior outreach program continued to grow. We'd added a garden project, where seniors could plant flowers and vegetables, their hands in the soil, their hearts in the community. I spent my days there, tending to the plants and the people, finding joy in both. Clara started volunteering too, joining me on weekends to pack meals or chat with the others. She was good with them, patient and kind, and I saw glimpses of the girl I'd raised, now tempered by wisdom and regret. One day, as we worked side by side, she turned to me. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said. "What you did with the trust fund, it's incredible. I was angry at first, but I get it now. You gave it to people who needed it more than I did." Her words were a balm, soothing the last of my doubts. "I did it for them," I said, "but also for me. I needed to know I could still make a difference." "You do," she said. "Every day?" That evening, we sat in my kitchen, sharing a meal we'd cooked together, lasagna, her favorite from childhood. The table was set with care, the same table where I'd sat alone, hungry and heartbroken. Now, it was filled with laughter, with stories, with love. We weren't perfect. There were still moments of tension, of unspoken fears. But we were trying, and that was enough. As Clara left, she hugged me, her arms strong and warm. "I love you, Mom," she said, her voice steady. "I love you too," I replied, and for the first time in a long time, I meant it fully. I watched her drive away, the spring sun setting behind her. The house was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet, not empty, but full of possibility. I'd lost something when I changed the trust fund, but I'd gained so much more: a daughter who was learning to show up, a community that embraced me, a strength I hadn't known I had. I was Eleanor Hayes, and I was enough.